Welcome back, everybody. Derrick, your East Oakland advocate. Well, I want to bring you up to date on what's been happening with myself. I've had a bout of a cold, flu. Actually, all the symptoms are pointing to RSV, and it's been lingering on for a little bit. And older folks like myself are much more susceptible to RSV, that it may go on longer than for the average person. And for myself, that seems to be true because I'm already in my second week. And so I've had a lot of mucus. There's been some respiratory issues, breathing issues, a lot of sneezing. That's one of the big things. The big difference that COVID doesn't have is the sneezing that you have. But RSV is, you do have that, a lot of sneezing, a lot of nasal dripping. And so that's what I've been dealing with. Plus, a lack of energy, because it really just zaps your energy, the RSV. And so you'll see a lot of these symptoms with children also. But also to bring you up to date in terms of my housing situation, I'm still temporarily in a holding pattern, we'll say. And I'm waiting for the city of Oakland to finalize a temporary location for me, because I told them it wouldn't be for very long. It would be less than 1 year. And the reason why I say less than 1 year is because now my funds have come through, and I'm currently looking at my options. And the first option that I've already eliminated, if you watched an earlier video, was I eliminated the possibility of using extended stay, residence inn, executive inn, or Homewood Suites. And so all of those temporary housing situations with cooking facilities, and the cost was crazy. It ranged from $4,000 a month up to $6,000 a month. And the only break that you got on that was that you didn't pay the 11% room tax, because now that's considered a residence stay. And so it's not taxed as a visitor stay. And so you don't have the 11%. But there's a stipulation on that. In order to get to acquire that and not have the tax, you have to pay on the first of every month the full month. And so that the entire $4,000 to $6,000 is due in full on the first. There's no grace period. It is due on the first, and the first only. And so that's not an option for me. I've started looking around at some other options, which I'll be talking about in an upcoming video. But also what I'm doing, I'm looking at home purchasing. And the reason why I say I'm looking at home purchasing, I'm not looking for a big home. So I'm not looking to spend $1 million. What I would actually like to do is buy an older, small cottage, like what's in typical for some of the older sections of the East Oakland Hills, because there were a lot of cottages that were built back in the 50s and the early 1900s. And the very wealthy of San Francisco came to Oakland, and they had these cottages, the weekend cottages, that look back at San Francisco. So a lot of those cottages exist today. Some of them have been torn down and made into a standard size house. But those cottages, the sizes were very comfortable. And typically they were between 800 and 900 square feet. So they weren't very large homes. They were typically 1 or 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, living room, bathroom. And that was it. They're pretty typical. I actually had a neighbor whose son bought one up in the Oakland Hills as his first home when he started out in, he bought this in the early 2000s, and moved into that. And he said, well, it was a good starter home for him since it was just himself. He had the income and the job stability. So that's the kind of home that I'm going to be looking for. I'm not looking for a mega home or one that has a lot of status to it. So even something, in the flatlands of Oakland, it could be North Oakland, Fruitvale, West Oakland. Well, probably not so much West Oakland because of some of the issues that are going on there right now and the pollutants that are there. But I'll be looking around Oakland for some housing solutions, and hopefully my goal is to become Oakland homeowner once again. And then what I'll be doing with that home, I'll be retrofitting a lot of new modern technology into that home to make it or bring it as close as possible to a net zero home right here in Oakland. And then that will be overseen by my 501 and trust and foundation. And so all of these tools and instruments will guarantee that after my passing, that the home that will be part of the community land trust, the private community land trust, will be available for somebody else to become a homeowner or granted a home for very low cost as part of my PATH program that is in place. And so a lot of things are going to be changing, and then a lot of the funds, we're going to be looking around Oakland, but we're not going to be buying up properties willy-nilly. We're going to wait till and see how the market goes. We don't anticipate a lot of change, not like what we saw in 2008, because that was a very different market, and a lot of safeties were put in place, and so we're not going to see a lot of the crash like in the real estate in 2008. But it is going to be a market crash because the greedy souls that have tricked a lot of people into buying at the highest prices, and then the market and the media pushing the FOMO, you better buy your home now before you can't afford it anymore. Well, people couldn't afford it already when they were pushing that FOMO. So anyway, I'm going to be looking at somewhere around $1,600 to $2,000 a month, which is my affordable range that I had when I was back in that income bracket. And so I'm going to be using that bracket to see how much I can purchase. But I've already worked out some numbers and figures to show me. Just a moment, I'll be right back. Okay, I found the information that I had already calculated out for if I were going to rent. I would use an old amount that I had when I was back in this income bracket, because I easily qualified for that particular type of rent, and that rent range is $1,600 to $2,000 per month. And so if you take that and apply that to purchasing a home, there is a formula that you can use for those exact same numbers, and that's what the same numbers and the same formula that I use to come up with my buying range, what is affordable for me in that same. So I remember there was a point, a tipping point earlier, much earlier in the real estate craziness, where buying a home actually costs less than renting. And so we're possibly going to see something like that happen, but I'm not exactly sure. But I'm preparing because I'm looking at price drops. This morning on the news, they were talking about a single family housing price drop in San Francisco County of $500,000. So there's been $500,000 price reduction on middle America homes in San Francisco. $500,000 price reduction. That is astounding. And then in Silicon Valley, it's $725,000 average price reduction on homes in Silicon Valley, Santa Clara County. And so very astounding numbers. Here in Oakland, they didn't release any numbers, but I'm sure that we're going to see pretty similar, because I looked at my old home in the Grand Lake, and at one point at the peak, my former home had a value of $2,200,000, and that was in 2021. And as of just 2 weeks ago, that same home, the price value has dropped to $1,600, $3,900. That's a significant drop. And so things are happening here in the real estate market, because people aren't able to get a mortgage. The price of homes is way too high and out of line with income levels that could sustain those incomes. Because what we're seeing right now, those income levels that the greedy were really pitching their sales to were the high-tech folks. And the high-tech folks, unfortunately, that is a very unstable position right now, because we're seeing a lot of layoffs going on across the board. Microsoft this morning just announced 10,000 layoffs for their corporation. And we've had reductions at Salesforce. We've had, obviously, Twitter, and a lot of reductions here in the Bay Area. But the good part is that a lot of those folks that found themselves unemployed found themselves employed somewhere else. And so that's a good thing. But as far as what they were making at one of their other employers, leaves a lot to be mentioned. But anyway, for me to look at homes here in Oakland, I'll be looking at $192,000 up to $250,000. Using that same formula of my monthly rent being $1,600 to $2,000, you multiply that by 360, that is a 30-year mortgage. And so what you're saying, you're going to lock in your housing costs for 30 years at that rate. And so that gives you a maximum buying power of $192,000 up to $250,000. And if you multiply that out, you say, hey, the math doesn't come up. There's a lot more money, but all of that money, that's the interest that you pay across 30 years. And it's shocking when you see how much the loan is, $192,000 to $250,000, and then you multiply the $1,600 up to $2,000 by 360. That's your 30-year lock-in price. Yeah. But the difference is, if you rent, all that money literally is just gone. It never gains any value for you. It doesn't do anything, and you remain a slave to that taskmaster, which owns your home. And however, if you're a homeowner and you own your home and you're paying the $1,600 to $2,000, and sticking with the plan like I would be doing, well, actually, in my case, the entire home would be paid for in full. and there would not be any housing payment. It'd be owned free and clear, and so that's the goal here. We're trying to buy the property as cheap as possible. We're waiting for the market to actually bottom out. Now that we've seen, right here on this one example of a $600,000 decrease in a value on a property that I personally know, that is astounding. And so we're just at the start. This is we're just getting started here in 2023. There's still a lot of layoffs going, still COVID issues. Now we have RSV. Like I said, I've been battling RSV for at least the past 14 days, if not longer, and I'm still battling it. And the fatigue is taking its toll on me, and the hoarseness, you can hear it in my voice. So anyway, I'm going to end this now, but that's what I'm looking at. That hopefully helps you see where I'm focused at in terms of my housing solution. So right now, I'm in a temporary housing situation, but I have to move on. And so I have to look at something much more long-term, which I've asked the city of Oakland to do. It's been a couple of weeks, but then we've had a lot of administration issues with the city of Oakland. Daniel Cooper, he was put on administrative leave December 20th. And that's the same time when I was saying, I need to find somewhere. I need the city's help. And then the city had a few options, but then because I have a medical record here for Alameda County, and Alameda County owns some better situations, which are converted hotels with those kitchenettes. And so the city is working at getting me into one of those over on Eads Avenue, hopefully at like the Days Hotel, which is one of the conversion hotels for Alameda County. If I get into one of there, I've already said I don't need anything more than 1 year for my situation, because I have a way to exit. But it buys me time, and I don't have to be wasting money, literally throwing money away on a hotel room, on horrible housing. And so this helps me. I'm going to be working smart and not hard. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be right back.